This is the state of Israel, nestled on the westernmost edge of Asia. To the north, it borders Lebanon and Syria. To the east, it touches Jordan and the Palestinian territory of the West Bank. Southward lies Egypt, with Gaza to the southwest and the Mediterranean Sea stretching along its western coast. While some countries recognize Israel's borders as legitimate, others view them as highly disputed. On January 6, 2025, a seemingly ordinary map posted by Israel's official Arabic X account sparked an international storm. The map showed not only the West Bank, but also areas from Syria, Lebanon, Jordan, and Egypt as part of Israeli territory. What caught further attention were the ancient labels used for these regions, along with an Arabic inscription meaning the kingdoms of Judah and Israel after the division. This post wasn't just a simple historical reference. It was seen as a bold political statement. The backlash was swift, particularly from Arab countries where mainstream media and social media exploded with discussions about Greater Israel. But here's the thing. This isn't the first time the idea of Greater Israel has stirred global controversy. The concept has reappeared throughout history, often reigniting tensions in the Middle East. But what exactly does Greater Israel mean? Where does the concept come from? And is there any truth to the claims? Let's uncover the story behind it. The term Greater Israel has its roots in religious, political, and historical contexts. For some right-wing Zionist groups and religious Jewish factions, it represents a vision of Israel reclaiming lands they believe were promised to them in ancient times. These groups often cite biblical texts as justification for expanding Israel's borders beyond their current scope. The idea includes regions such as the Golan Heights, Palestinian territories like the West Bank, and even parts of Jordan, the Sinai Peninsula, and Lebanon. The basis for this belief lies in religious scripture, primarily the Old Testament. A key verse often quoted comes from the book of Genesis, which reads, "On that day the Lord made a covenant with Abraham and said, 'To your descendants I give this land, from the Wadi of Egypt to the great river, the Euphrates.'" This covenant has fueled the belief that ancient Israel once stretched from the Nile River in Egypt to the Euphrates in present-day Iraq. Historical references also mention regions from Dan to Beersheba, believed to be the dwelling places of the 12 ancient tribes of Israel. Even during the British Mandate after World War I, these biblical boundaries influenced the creation of British Palestine. The recent map posted by Israel in 2025 seemed to revive this ancient claim, drawing attention to how closely it aligns with historical and religious interpretations of Greater Israel. But how much of this vision is backed by history? According to biblical accounts, the first United Kingdom of Israel emerged around 1050 BCE under King Saul. It lasted about 120 years, with King David and King Solomon later taking the throne. During this time, the kingdom flourished, with its capital in Jerusalem. King Solomon, known for his wisdom, is credited with building the first temple, also referred to as Solomon's Temple. However, after Solomon's death, the kingdom split into two, the northern kingdom of Israel and the southern kingdom of Judah. This division proved fatal. In 722 BCE, the northern kingdom fell to the Assyrian Empire, while the southern kingdom was destroyed in 586 BCE by the Babylonians. During the Babylonian conquest, Jerusalem was sacked, the first temple was destroyed, and the Jewish population was exiled to distant regions, including Egypt and parts of North Africa. But this is where history becomes murky. While the Bible portrays the United Kingdom of Israel as a powerful and unified state, modern archaeology tells a more complicated story. Not all historians agree that the Grand United Kingdom described in religious texts ever existed. In fact, many scholars believe that the biblical narrative is exaggerated. Archaeological evidence suggests that before the Babylonian conquest, Jerusalem was little more than a collection of small rural settlements, rather than the grand capital of a powerful kingdom. In the 1980s, a team of archaeologists from the University of Copenhagen challenged the traditional narrative. They argued that prior to the Babylonian conquest, there was little evidence to support the existence of large, centralized kingdoms like the ones described in the Bible. According to their research, what existed in the region were small Jewish settlements scattered across rural areas. After the fall of the Babylonian Empire, Cyrus the Great of Persia allowed the Jewish people to return to Jerusalem in 539 BCE. They rebuilt the city, including the construction of the Second Temple on the site of the original. While the Jewish population regained a foothold in Jerusalem, the city frequently changed hands between various empires, including the Greeks under Alexander the Great and later the Romans. In 70 CE, the Roman general Titus laid siege to Jerusalem. After a brutal 5-month siege, the city fell. The Romans destroyed the Second Temple and expelled the Jewish population once again, scattering them across the Roman Empire. This marked the end of Jewish sovereignty in the region for over 1,300 years. Under Muslim rule, beginning with Caliph Umar's conquest in 637 CE, Jerusalem remained under Islamic control until the collapse of the Ottoman Empire in the 20th century. Although Jews were allowed to live in the city, they did so as a minority population. Throughout this period, there was no independent Jewish or Israeli state in the region. However, the religious aspiration for the Promised Land never completely faded. In the late 19th century, Theodor Herzl reignited the idea of a Jewish homeland through the modern Zionist movement. In 1896, he published The Jewish State, arguing that Jews needed their own nation to escape the discrimination they faced in Europe. By 1897, at the First Zionist Congress in Switzerland, Herzl presented a map outlining his vision of a Jewish state in Palestine, which included regions way beyond its current borders and included the areas of Palestine, Syria, Jordan, Lebanon, Iraq, Turkey, and even the Kingdom of Saudi Arabia. Herzl's efforts gained traction after World War I, when Britain took control of Palestine. The Balfour Declaration of 1917 further fueled Zionist ambitions by promising British support for the establishment of a Jewish homeland. Finally, in 1948, Israel declared its independence. But the way the land was divided, with a large portion allocated to the Jewish population, sparked conflict with the Arab population. The situation only escalated after the 1967 Six-Day War, during which Israel captured the West Bank, Gaza, the Golan Heights, and the Sinai Peninsula. Over the years, right-wing Israeli leaders have continued to push for the expansion of Israel's borders. The movement for Greater Israel, which gained momentum after the 1967 war, advocated for making the occupied territories a permanent part of Israel. Menachem Begin, a former prime minister, openly stated that the 1948 partition was unfair and that Israel should reclaim its historical boundaries. More recently, Finance Minister Bezalel Smotrich of the right-wing Likud party displayed a map showing parts of Jordan, Egypt, and Syria as part of Greater Israel. In a 2023 interview, Smotrich expressed his desire for Israel to stretch from the Nile to the Euphrates, with Jerusalem extending into Damascus. The political actions supporting this expansion include the recognition of Jerusalem as Israel's capital by President Donald Trump, the ongoing construction of Jewish settlements in the West Bank, and Israeli military actions in Syria. Despite the ambitions of some political factions, the idea of Greater Israel faces significant obstacles. Israel's population is small compared to the millions of Arabs and Muslims living in the surrounding regions. Governing such a large and diverse population would be nearly impossible and could lead to endless conflict. Moreover, attempts to expand Israeli borders would destabilize the region even further. The Middle East is already a volatile region, and any further expansion would likely result in widespread unrest. The concept of Greater Israel isn't just about history, it's a living debate with political, religious, and military implications. What do you think about the controversies surrounding Greater Israel and the developments in the Middle East? Let us know your thoughts in the comments. And if you enjoyed this video, give it a like and subscribe to our channel for more engaging content on history, geopolitics, and world affairs. Thanks for watching.